Have you always loved music?
My mother said that when I was a baby and a toddler, the only thing that kept me quiet was listening to music. Yes, I have.
And what are your earliest musical memories? Any particular songs or tunes?
Oh, a big one. My mother, when I was 7, I was very ill. I wasn't expected to ever walk again. And when I came out of hospital after 6 months, is when I was a couple of years later actually, my mother thought I should have a piano. I'd never asked for one, but anyway, they couldn't afford to buy one. But my mother had 2 sisters younger who were working, and they had bought a piano that nobody played. So my mum and dad offered my grandmother a new, that only had it about 6 months, blue leather, 3-piece suite with 6 matching dining chairs. And then when I had my first letter, I was 9 actually, and when I came home from the lesson, I went to the piano and I said to Mum, "Oh, it's easy." And from that day, she couldn't keep me off the piano.
So what was it? Because to many, there's a piano behind me, it just looks daunting. What was easy?
What was what?
What was easy? Just playing the piano? Did the piano come natural to you?
I had a book to learn from, and I played it, and I had 9 months lesson, 9 pence a lesson, that was. And I had 9 months lessons and then the war. And I lived in Stratford, East London, and the first Saturday afternoon bombing we had hit my music teacher's road, and all her house was down, demolished. And then we were evacuated to places. My mother came with my brother and I, and we were, with the Blitz, we were bombed out. We had to go somewhere else. But wherever I stayed where there was a piano, I was always on it. But half of the war, there wasn't a piano for me. But after the war, I found another teacher, another 9 pence a lesson for him. And then I saw the film The Seventh Veil about a young girl who became a concert pianist. And from that I learnt that you could take exams for piano. So to cut a long story short, my dad went to West Ham Library and they gave him the address of the Metropolitan Academy of Music in Forest Gate. My dad went there and it wasn't there anymore, it'd been bombed. And apparently it was older than the Royal Schools of Music. But only wealthy people could go there, of course. But anyway, my dad found the Professor Frank Bonner, who had been the head there. And I went along to see him. I was 17. My dad came with me on the bus to Wanstead, and when we saw where I had to go, I was 17 then. And I said to my dad, "Well, I don't need you with me, you stay there." I knocked on the door. The maid answered the door and showed me in this big room with every musical instrument. And then Professor Bonner came in and he said, "I understand you want to take exams." So I said yes. I was so naive. He said, "What sort of fee have you in mind?" I said, "Well, I want the best." He said, "Well then, that will be Miss Tedeschi, LRAM, ARCM in Forest Gate. And she charges 3 guineas a term, that's 10 lessons." And I sat there working up, that was like 8 shillings a week. That was 2/3 of my wages. And I did that for 7 years. Practised when I got home from work in the evening, especially when I first started, and it was the first year after the war. Coal was rationed, and we had a lot of snow, which lasted a long time. We used to get home from work about 5:30, and then ask my mum and dad, "Are you going to listen to the radio?" Wireless, we called it then. Because I didn't want them to hear me. I practised for 2 hours in fur-lined boots and a coat. Then I couldn't my hands were frozen. So I went back and got warm, and then went back and did another 2 hours. 4 hours every evening. And I went to the new teacher, and the second lesson, the first lesson she gave me a piece to learn by Handel, 1 page. And next week I went and could play it, and she said, can you get it from memory next week? So I did that. So then she presented me with the grade 5 Royal Schools of Music exam book. And I practiced a lot, and I got that with distinction in 6 months. And I always wanted to play the piano well. Then I got married, I gave up the lessons, but still carried on playing until both my girls were teenagers. And then I went to Thurrock Technical College evening classes and got grade 8.
You mentioned Thurrock for a second. When did you move to Thurrock?
When I was married, we moved. So my husband got a job in Grays. He was a pharmacist. So we moved here over 60 years ago.
Right.
Both my girls now are in their 60s, and they were both born in Thurrock. And the theatre, I started having shows. Well, I've done 41 years of musical soirees.
Can you remember the first show?
The first one I had.
The first show, so 41 years ago would have been what?
Yes, I did. Yes, the theatre was packed because in those days I had over 40 pupils and a waiting list. Now I'm down to 2 little boys. When I was in the hospital 2 years ago, I actually lost 10 because I was like 3 months out of action. But this year, the first year of course, with all those pupils, theatre was packed. But now I'm down to 2 little boys. But this year it was very fitting, really, very appropriate, because the ones that, 4 of them, that learnt with me, 2 of them are going off to university next year, and 1 boy is only 15. He left me 3 years ago to go to school in Chelmsford, but they asked if they could come and play in my show. So this year, being the last one, I had the advanced pupils plus the 2 little boys that went on at the beginning. So it was a great success.
But why did you start the musical soiree? What prompted you to have something on the stage?
Because I had a very, very good piano teacher, but where I worked in Boardman's in Stratford, we had, just after the war, the Arnold Boardman there, we were having a Christmas plus New Year party, and he organised a review for any of the staff that could do anything. And I played in the first one, and next day he said to me, "You look terrified." Anyway, told my music teacher. She would have been very proud of me because I didn't do anything wrong on the piano, but she had no idea of presentation at all. And I just played like I was going for a lesson. But the following year, she said, "This would be good for you, play next year." And it was the Littov Scherzo, very, very fast, 14 pages. I learnt it all from memory, and then I told my teacher that we were having a dance band for the evening. "Oh, that's good," she said, "they can do the orchestration with you." So I went along to see the leader of the band and showed him music. I said, "Could you do it?" Oh, she said, "I don't know anything about that," and I couldn't do that. So when I told my teacher, "Oh, well, if they're not good enough to do the orchestration with you, then you're not doing it." So I played Claire de Lune instead.
Who are your favourite?
That was, the morning of the show, the party, I had a lecture from him. He said, "Look, I don't care what the hell you play like, just look as if you can play. You got long hair, toss your head, do." I did that anyway the next day morning. He said I was one of the best acts in the show. So I learned a lot from being in that. And so when I started to teach, I remembered that. And I thought, it's no good just learning, we've got to learn to play it to other people. And with the piano, it's a single, isolated one thing to play, isn't it? Anybody playing a wind instrument or strings, playing an orchestra. But a pianist is solo, unless they're very, very good with an orchestra. But so I thought that would be a good idea, to not just teach for exams, but teach them to play.
Just to the right of you are two busts, one is Chopin and one is Schubert.
Oh yes.
Who are your favourite composers?
Chopin. Yes.
Why?
Because he only composed for piano and everything, but there's no easy Chopin. No. That's a problem because I've always had small hands, and a lot of things that I can't play anymore because as we get older, our hands don't get smaller, but they won't stretch as much. So Claire de Lune I can't play anymore. I can't manage. But I have made 6 CDs, an hour long each one, over the years.
Wow.
And the practice time that went into those, I mean, Claire de Lune takes 3 minutes. So to fill 1 hour, it had to be a lot of practicing.
You still love listening to music?
I love listening to it, but I'd rather be doing it. I'd rather be playing it. I work off all my emotions on the piano.
But it must take, looking back, it must take great satisfaction, the amount of young people who have learnt from you. It must be hugely satisfying.
Yes. I had a friend come to visit me yesterday from the Help Musicians, that's the charity fund. You don't hear anything of them, but they help musicians. They've helped me actually. And on the way here, she's a voluntary visitor. And she has to come and see me twice a year, but we've become such good friends, she likes to come more often than that. And she came yesterday, and on the way here, on the train, she was thinking about 41 soirees, and all the pupils of mine that played in them 40 years ago, and that, how that must have affected each one of them, one way or another. For instance, giving them confidence to play, and in other ways. So when she got here and she's saying it's a pity that there's, it's your last one, I said, but it's my last one, but it's not the last one because Marcus, Mr. Marcus, he has a son, Michael, I've forgotten his surname, but father of one of my pupils is actually taking over because he said he thinks they should carry on but still using my name. But he is going to do all the hard work. But I've said, unless he gets anybody better, anybody else, I will still do the publicity. I'll still make all the phone calls to sell tickets.
And we always appreciate that. And I'd like to say thank you very much for taking part in our film, Vera. Thank you.
Thank you.